Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about why the first Final Destination movie will always be my all-time favorite in the franchise. When it comes to this franchise, there's only two that I like, the first one and the third one. Everything else is just everything else. The second one could probably be, I don't know, maybe my third favorite. Uh, the fourth and fifth are tied, and I have not seen the sixth yet. But I love this franchise no matter what because it's actually the only horror movie that the first one I ever loved. The second one was 13 Ghosts. But for the most part, I don't like horror, supernatural type movies. I like slashers more. And yeah, I like The Ring and I own it. And there's a couple, I think there's another one that I like. That's a bit of a supernatural type thing. What was that? That Annabelle, the second one or something like that. But for the most part, I've always been a slasher person. I've never really been like a horror. And there's only a few horror movies that I like, but this will always be my very favorite and stuff. I don't know, maybe the nostalgia of it all, maybe because how it was written, how it was directed, I don't know. But there was always just something that just felt right about this first movie. I remember, I was in college, it was my freshman year. My RA had like a bunch of like horror and slasher movies for Halloween. Then when I got I won that certificate for the pumpkin carving contest. I think he had like a gift card to Blockbuster. And so I'm looking around, seeing what I could buy. And there I see something called Final Destination. Never seen a trailer, not a TV spot, nothing. I only knew who one of the stars were. And I'm not even sure he's on the poster and stuff. But for whatever reason, I just took a chance. And boy, it paid off big time. And I mean big time. And so, I just remember in my dorm watching it at night and just loving everything I saw from like the old school VFX and everything, from like the characters to the situation, the plot, the resolution to everything. It was just so fascinating to me. And, one of the things that I feel that makes this one, because a lot of people don't like the first one no more. Some people say it's dumb, but it's literally the same formula for every other movie. So how is it dumb? I don't get it. Then you would have to say all the other ones are dumb too. But whatever. Like, one of the reasons why I like this is because for the most part, even though there is a little bit of camp, it's dark. And I mean, everything about it is dark and eerie, from like Alex waking up from his sleep and little subtle things happening, like, the shifts in the wind and the eerie music, and, him looking at like the flight schedule and everything. And it's just like, it's the overall eeriness of it that it helps sets up your anticipation, your fear and stuff like that. And so of course he has that premonition, and it's a really visual one. Yeah, there's some rocking back and forth because they really couldn't like do too much. But then once that fire hit, and I was like wondering, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I guess they're gonna skip over that. But no, they literally singed that dude's face off, and I'm like, holy crap. And then when he gets off the plane and the plane explodes in the air, and then I was not expecting I guess like a sonic boom or whatever, the glass shake breaking and everything. I was not expecting that. And it's just that overall dark feeling. Like, none of the deaths feel campy. Every death feels darker than the next. And that's how I feel like this franchise should be. Like, it should never be like a hee hee ha ha kind of moment. It should always be dread. It should always be fear in like in your mind. It should always be this tense feeling you're having. And that's the problem that the other movies have had. It's just at times they get a little bit campy, especially in the second movie. In the second movie, I don't think it was ever shot at night. It was always during the day for some reason. And I don't like that because I feel like a horror movie should be at night. And so, like, the dark tone of just like, always being at night, that always is a good feel for me. Because when the one girl got hit by the bus and it was during the daytime, yeah, it was kind of like shocking and it felt kind of weird because the VFX, but you felt that impact. But the fact that it was like, I don't know, during the daytime, I guess with hers it's okay because you have to really see her getting smacked, and then you can actually see the little fragments of bone and blood splatter and stuff like that. So I guess during the daytime is fine for that kill. But everything else at night would just seem so much more better. And that's the problem I'm having with all these sequels, is that a lot of this stuff happens during the day. And not only that, but sometimes it gets a bit comedic. I forget which one it was. I think it was the second one because my review for the second, fourth, and fifth, they're already uploaded and gonna come out in October for Halloween month. And I think it was the second one. And I remember you're following like Death's trail and how it's gonna get this person. And it's like, okay, it's going to get this person, it's going to get this person. But then all of a sudden the person gets up and walks away. And then it almost seems like the supernatural element of death kind of gets like pissed. And because it's like a comedic moment. And it's kind of like, oh man, now I gotta find another way to kill you and everything. And that's how some of these other movies feel. And I don't like that. But with the first movie, it never felt that way. It always felt, menacing and everything. And not only that, but the deaths in the first movie, no matter what, and no matter what the VFX looked like, they always felt realistic. It always felt like a person could do this to themselves and it can just come off as them taking their own life, as opposed to them slipping and falling like the girl on the balance beam for gymnastics and then just go splat and her whole body crunches up like a pretzel, which was just kind of weird all on its own. And so, but all these deaths in the first movie, it really feels like something somebody could do to themselves. The plane crash feels like somebody could mess around with the plane and make it crash. Todd in like the bathroom, like the dude literally had like some kind of string wrapped around his neck, and it's like this soapy lubricant type stuff in the tub, and he's desperately trying to like get out. And it's not until Alice goes to the coroner and realizes that the little marks on his neck are like from his fingernails trying to dig at the rope and get like, it off him. But then the cops and everybody and the doctors and everybody else, they couldn't see that, you know what I'm saying? They just assumed the dude took his own life because he felt bad his brother died. And then you have Mrs. Luton. We all know she's super depressed and everything. And people might have thought, well, maybe, no, nobody thought that she took her own life. They thought Alex did it because, well, some might thought she took her own life because with the fire and everything. But then it's like, the stab wound in the chest, they thought he did it and his prints are on it. So it made him seem like a villain. And like, with, what was his name? Not Carter, but, the Stifler dude, like, well, his head getting chopped off, that's not him doing that. But people probably thought, oh, they're probably just a bunch of like young kids like playing around with like a train, and oh no, an accident happened, which that does happen. And so everything just kind of felt more realistic in that sense. Not to mention that like in this movie, you actually have people believing that, hey, this one teenage boy is setting up all this stuff because he's gone crazy in the head and he's just offing people. Like, he messed with the plane, he tried to kill his teacher, maybe he got a bad grade. You know, he hates the jock, so maybe he probably pushed, like, the girlfriend in front of like the bus and everything, even though people saw that he was standing nowhere near her and everything. But people was spinning the truth and stuff. And it's just that everybody kept blaming this dude for like everything. Which in the other movies you don't really see that happening. It's more of them literally trying to be like a hero and everything. Or you'll have somebody trying to kill them just because they have to change up the formula of the movie and stuff. And not only that, but then you get the whole thing of like, more of it feeling realistic with the police and everything, or the FBI investigating Alex and stuff. You really don't get that no more. I think maybe in the fourth one or maybe in the fifth one. And that's really just like about it. Then, like, not only that, but the tropes of the characters. Typical movie tropes, you know what I'm saying? But they still feel realistic. Like, I still can't believe her name is Clear. I thought it was Claire for the longest time. But Clear, I've met hippie stoner looking like art students before like that in college. So yes, they do exist. And because the actress, in my opinion, is not very good at acting, she's just okay. I've seen her in some other stuff. She always has this bland expression, and so it fits well with people thinking she's like a stoner type thing. You have Carter, who's this really angry jock, and I met people like him, like in high school, like bullies that are just like pissy. And then the moment you stand up for yourself or say one thing to stand up for yourself, they get even more pissed and want to beat your behind even more because they know that part of making everybody else scared of them is making you scared of them. And if you try to stand up to them, then they lose that power over you. So they have to reassert themselves and make everybody fear them and stuff. I have met people like that, dude. And then there's like Alex, who's just like the dopey guy who just gets thrust into something in the middle that he didn't ask to be put into. There's Billy, that's it, Billy, who's just silly and goofy and everything and scared of like a lot of stuff. And then there's the teacher, Mrs. Luton, who's just one of those like just mean kind of teachers who, because she gets scared of Alex after a while, but she never wants to hear him out. And you've met teachers like that before. The characters in the other movie, I don't know, they feel like a real movie trope as opposed to a movie trope that feels real. But they just feel like an actual movie trope that everything feels fake. You know what I'm saying? And then there is like the acting and stuff. Like, the acting was a bit more believable and better in the first movie. In the second movie felt like a parody. Like, I know a lot of people love that movie. I don't. But that movie felt like a parody and everything. The third movie had some pretty good acting. But the fourth and fifth, the acting was just horrid and everything. It's like nobody could act in that. And then back to the second one, the girl who gets the premonitions. I don't know how her acting is now, but it was terrible in that movie. It was terrible in that movie. And then there's the whole Tony Todd character, dude. Like, I liked him a bit more in the first because it's kind of like you never suspected he's more than just an ordinary man. Like Alex is freaked out about everything. Claire, wants to go to the mortuary to see Todd's body and everything. And because she gets like a rush out of like doing things like this. And then all of a sudden here comes like this Undertaker type dude And he's starting to explain certain things about, like, oh yeah, he knows who y'all are because he saw y'all on the news, and and that's valid, what I'm saying. And he just starts talking about death's plan, and cheating death, and it'll come back to get you. So you think, okay, something's up with him, but you don't really truly 100% think there is something up with him, but you think there's something, what I'm saying. For the most part, he seems like a normal person. And but then in the other movies, it's clear that, like, there's something with this dude, but we don't know what, which is kind of fun in the mystery. But like I said before, in the first one, he just seems like a regular character and everything. And I don't know, it's one of those things that, and I also like how the premonitions are done. Like, you randomly see stuff moving and flickering around, and your eye travels from one spot to like the next spot to like the next spot, and so, like, you just have no idea what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to the other movies where you see these vivid, like, very, like, specific imagery in the second movie through this person's eyes, and so you're traveling along with them, but you don't know exactly what's going on. Then in the third one, it's like, that was kind of cool. You had to look at the pictures and see how everything correlates to how you're gonna die, so that was neat. The fourth one was just bad CGI. And I don't even remember what the fifth one's about because I literally just watched that a month ago, along with, like, the fourth. And another reason why this will always be my favorite is because just the visual effects are so much better. Once they went CGI heavy and once they started doing things in 3D, that was it. Like, the fourth movie and the fifth movie, I feel like really killed this franchise, especially the fourth. And they tried to fix it with the fifth, but with the fifth, they completely changed the rules again, and then nobody could act in that movie. And so it was just one of those things where it just took a long hiatus. And the CGI and literally the 3D just ruined this franchise big time. But even though I love the first movie, there is one death that is the coolest in the entire franchise. The tanning bed scene in the third movie. Those actresses, the special effects, the direction, how it was written, everything just came together beautifully and everything. One of the craziest and coolest deaths I've ever seen in this entire franchise. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.